Hello everyone, in this video I will be talking about a specific order of bacteria called Vibrio. Vibrio belong to the family of proteobacteria, specifically gamma proteobacteria, and members of this family usually inhabit salt or fresh water. Now, all fibronales share a similar structural characteristics it is a curved rod shape, as you can see here. They are also gram-negative bacteria, which means that they have an outer membrane and a thin peptidoglycan layer that surround the cell membrane. They are motile bacteria, so they move by means of flagellum, and it can be one single flagellum, like in this case, and it can have more than one flagella on one or both poles of the cell. Now, what makes fibronales very special structurally is that they have two circular chromosomes, as you can see here, and this is only unique to vibronales and does not exist in any other kind of bacteria, because usually bacteria has only one single chromosome. Vibrio are also facultative anaerobes, which means that in the presence of O2, they do anaerobic respiration to produce ATP, but when O2 is absent, then they can do fermentation to produce ATP. Now, one famous genera of Vibrio is Parahemolyticus, and it usually lives in salt water, and it is transferred to humans through undercooked seafood, and it causes gastrointestinal illness. Another famous type that you might have heard of is called Vibrio cholerae, which causes the disease cholera. Now, I will be explaining a bit more about Vibrio cholerae because cholera is a very famous disease. Not all types of cholera are pathogenic, but there are two pathogenic types that are called O1 and O139. Now, Vibrio cholerae is transferred to humans through drinking water that is contaminated with this bacteria. Now, when a person drinks water contaminated with the bacteria, it will go down to the body. It will go to the stomach. Now, in the stomach acidity is usually enough to eliminate and to kill this bacteria, but a lot of the times this bacteria escapes and goes to the intestine. Now, in the intestine, this bacteria is able to establish there and stay there and replicate and increase its numbers. And it also releases its toxins in the intestine. Now, after that, this bacteria will go out with feces, and when it reaches another water source and another person will drink from this water that is contaminated in this bacteria, it will move to another person. So this is how Vibrio cholerae is transferred from one person to another. Now, as I mentioned before, that Vibrio cholerae releases its toxin in the intestine. So on the epithelium cells of the intestine, on the membrane, it produces its toxins outside of the epithelial cells. And this toxin is usually composed of two subunits, the A subunit and the B subunit. That is why it's called an AB subunit. And so when this toxin is released in the intestine, it binds to the GM1, which is a ganglioside receptor that is on the surface of the epithelial cells in the intestine. Okay, so the AB toxin binds to it and it goes inside the cell. Now, when it goes inside the cell, the A and the B subunit are cleaved, and the A subunit is cleaved again into an A1 and an A2 subunit. Now, the A1 subunit binds to the G protein, and when that happens, it stimulates adenylate cyclase to produce more cyclic AMP. Now, when more cyclic AMP is produced, it opens the CFTR, which is the cystic fibrosis transmembrane conductance regulator, and this works like an ion channel. So when cyclic AMP receptor binds to it, it will open, and the chloride ions that are inside the membrane will go outside of the cell. And when this happens, Water that's inside the cell will also go out in order to balance the osmotic pressure in the cell. And that is why cholera is usually correlated with diarrhea and dehydration. And if these diarrhea and dehydration go on for a long time, then this could be fatal and it could be to the death of the person who is infected with this bacteria. Now, this bacteria, many outbreaks have happened to this bacteria, and the most recent one has been in Yemen. And as you can see, the outbreaks of this bacteria usually happen in poor areas such as Central America, Africa, and Southwest Asia. And this is because in these areas, clean water is not available and there are poor sanitation techniques. And so it is easy to transfer this bacteria from one person to another. And even though there have been treatments for Vibrio cholerae and vaccine have been developed, but of course, because people are poor, it is hard for them to afford buying these things. And so the best way to avoid getting infected with this bacteria is through boiling drinking water before drinking it to make sure to kill all the bacteria that is in there. And that's it, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this video and I hope you find it useful. Thank you for listening.